Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Community Spotlight, brought to you by ATB Wealth, where we shine a light on the people and businesses and organizations making a difference in our community. Today, we're diving into the world of hospitality. So we're excited. So I'm joined by Amy Nunn. Amy,
Hi,
thanks for
good
joining
morning.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Amy is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Prestige Hotels and Resorts. And we're gonna dive in. It's funny because I tried to do a little bit of research, and I'm like, how did I not know that Prestige Hotels is family operated?
Yeah.
So I started like this rabbit hole of reading the story. So we'll kind of get into that side of it. But I'm always curious. Like I like to start from like, how did you get into the industry? I'm always curious, like the path, like when you were 16, you're like, I can't wait to go work at a hotel. Like, so how did you get into that path?
Well, I mean, I just kind of fell into the hospitality hotel world in the last 10 years.
Okay.
I actually got my education first in journalism. 20 some years ago. So I did a couple of years as kind of a community newspaper and photographer.
Where was that?
Writer in Airdrie in Calgary.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So after a couple of years of that, I went back to the University of Calgary, got my communications degree, and ended up working at a nonprofit for a while, and then moved back to Saskatoon and worked for a couple different ad agencies. So marketing, branding, advertising, is really where I, really found my passion. Professionally. The last couple of years I was in Saskatoon, I was the director of marketing for Tourism Saskatoon. So that was kind of a dip into the tourism realm,
side.
Dealing with a lot of the hotels. So that kind of planted some good seeds. And when my husband and I moved to Kelowna 9 years ago, I applied with Prestige and got the role, and I've been with them ever since.
Interesting. So you didn't like move here looking to work for Prestige? There was an opening. You happened to see her like put your hand up and
it was one of those things that just fell into place. So I was on maternity leave with my second daughter. And my husband left for work one day, and he was back an hour later. And I said, "What are you doing home?" And he said, "Well, they tell me I don't work there anymore." So he was part of this big layoff. He had been with them many years and basically was given a severance package. I was still on maternity leave, and we'd been talking about moving to BC for a long time. And then so after the sting kind of wears off of that and settled in, we thought, oh my gosh, we have this window of, several months where, we have the ability to move to Kelowna because we've got this maternity leave and severance kicking in. So within 2 months, we had sold our house. That was January. By March, we sold our house, and we were here by May. So it happened very quickly.
I love it.
And once I knew exactly when I'd be, arriving in Kelowna, I started applying for jobs, and I started with Prestige 2 weeks after we moved.
Love it.
So it all fell into place. Yeah.
It's interesting actually when way back when there was a lot of hiring. Now it's we don't do a lot of hiring. We kind of have our team, but we always hired people through the journalism program because I find the writing skills were so amazing. And it's so important in marketing, as you know, to have really good writing skills. Like even now that we're using AI, you still need to know how to write.
Exactly.
So it was interesting. We used to love hiring from the journalism program because of that. So
and we're inquisitive.
We're,
exactly. Used to talking with people.
Interesting. So what does your day-to-day look like in your role right now? So other than coming to talk to me, what does your day look like?
Sure. So, I manage a team of 5 full-time staff at our corporate office in Kelowna. So 3 sales directors and 2 kind of marketing and support staff. So me personally, I handle anything to do with the marketing, the branding, any promotional campaigns. I have a social media person, but I manage the overall strategy and content with her. Any sponsorships or donations. I also handle any escalated guest complaints. Public relations, media releases, website, all those, anything in that realm.
Never a dull moment. Love it. So as I mentioned as I was going down this rabbit hole of didn't know that it was family owned and started, can you maybe give us the Coles Notes of sort of the history on how Prestige started, the family, how they're still, I'm curious, are they still involved today? What does that look like?
Sure. So actually, in April of this year, it will be 40 years since we opened the Prestige in Kelowna, although it wasn't called the Prestige at the time.
At the time, fair enough.
So essentially the story goes, Joseph and Anna Huber moved here in the 50s, with $20 in their pocket, taught each other English, all of that. And ended up opening a couple of motels in the Penticton area. and managed those for quite a few years. And in the early 80s, decided to build their first full-service property. So where the Prestige Beach House is now on the corner of Abbott, at the bottom of the bridge, that was known as the Park Lake Motor Inn. And opened 40 years ago this April. Wow. And so after probably about a decade or 8 or 9 years, they decided to kind of take that model and create Prestige Inns at the time, and built the first Prestige branded property in Vernon.
Okay.
So that was number 1 in Vernon, and we're now up to 19 across British Columbia. So
that's what an amazing story.
Yeah,
so cool.
32 years or so from that first one in Vernon.
I have to say, I went to the one in Salmon Arm, Prestige, and had like the most amazing dinner in the restaurant there. Like, it was crazy. Nice. I totally not on my script, but you guys used to have a really cool like bar at the Prestige here underneath. It was really like, is it still there?
It's back open.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it closed during COVID.
Best drinks ever. It was such a cool spot.
Yeah, thank you. It's called 27 Lounge.
Interesting.
And it's kind of a speakeasy, prohibition, jazzy club vibe. Yeah, so it's a hidden gem, we like to say.
That's great. Yeah. Well, for those listening, go check it out because it's super cool. I didn't know it was open again. It's cool to see.
We opened it in the fall.
Awesome. So we talked about there's 19 locations. So there was the 19th in December.
Yes.
Join the family. Yeah. I'm curious, like, what are some areas, like, because I think we've talked about Salmon Arm, Vernon. People know the island. Like, what are some hidden gems that people don't know where you guys are at? Is there a few that stand out? You're like, they probably don't even know we exist there.
Yeah, well, northern BC is kind of where we've put our focus in the last 5 years or so.
Interesting. Okay.
So we have 2 properties in Prince George, 1 in Smithers, 1 in Prince Rupert. And we just added a new one in Quesnel, which technically isn't northern BC. They're Caribou-Chilcotin Coast, but
close enough.
It's north of here. So yeah, that 5 or 6 properties up north, and things are really booming up north. Yeah. It's really promising. But yeah, we're in Golden and Radium Hot Springs and Nelson and Roseland. Out on the island on Vancouver Island in Souk.
Yeah, which is a great property.
Yeah,
seen that one. Interesting. I'm curious, for people that maybe haven't experienced the Prestige before, how would you compare it to more of the, like, say, the big chains or the different brands? Like, how is a guest experience maybe different?
Yeah, well, I think because we're still family owned, our CEO and president are brother-in-laws. They're still very much involved, and 2 of their children have now joined the team in recent years. Because we're family owned, we don't have a big, a board of directors or some stakeholders in, some big city somewhere. We're able to react really quickly. We can make decisions really quickly. We really pride ourselves on getting to know our guests and offering that personalized service. We want our guests to feel at home, like a home away from home when they stay with us, but obviously with some of the perks of not being at home. So we just really try to make our hotels really reflective of the communities that we're in. So we're not cookie cutter. If you go to the Nelson property, it's very different than Radium, very different from
But they fit into the community.
Yeah, exactly. Like in Cranbrook, for example, which has a huge railway history to the city, we actually took a rail car, brought it to the back of the property, and transformed the rail car into 2 designer suites. So you can sleep overnight in a train.
So
really,
cool.
right? So we just tried to take those little nuggets of the city and what they're known for and incorporate that into the experience.
Love it. I remember last year we were in the one in Nelson and just sitting on the patio, and it's such an amazing spot.
Yeah,
like just
beautiful.
Such an amazing spot. So, can you talk a little bit about sort of maybe it's in your role, like how you guys do get involved in community? Because I know you do. I know it's a big part of the brand, right? So what are some of those partnerships or programs you're doing in community?
Sure. So everything from donating, gift certificates as often as we can. Truthfully, I probably give away 400 to 500 free night stays a year to anybody who asks. Really, if they're if they're a good.
You're going to get a bunch of emails.
I know, right? Yeah, as long as they're in one of our communities and a good cause, we'll help support your raffle or silent
auction.
Fair enough. We're really involved with organizations like Cop for Kids. So they do their bicycle tour every September, and they stop in 6 of our cities.
That's pretty
So
cool.
we basically put up 40 riders for free everywhere that they stay with us in those 6 communities. Cool. We sponsor a lot of hockey teams and different the ballet or the theater organization. So we try to really, support local organizations like that. But what we're most proud of is Joanna's House here in Kelowna. So Joseph and Anna Huber are the founders of our company. So, gosh, it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, our CEO, their son, Joe Huber, he had this vision of trying to give back to the community of Kelowna and everyone across BC who would need to come here for hospital treatments, and approached the Kelowna General Hospital Foundation, and on behalf of his family and our president's family, initiated with a large financial donation. And that got the ball rolling to build Joanna's House in honor of his parents.
What an amazing legacy.
Yeah, and Hilda Schneider, his sister, Joseph and Anna's daughter, was the one who did all the interior design for the entire home. And it's something that we do multiple fundraisers for throughout the year, and it's benefited thousands of families across BC who have to come to Kelowna.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that's our charity of choice.
Yeah, for sure. That's special. It's so close to you.
Such a legacy.
Yeah, for sure. One thing was interesting, like our industry, I know in the marketing world, and you're in that space, has changed a lot over the last couple of years through COVID, through our AI now and automation. I'm curious, like, what have been some of the big evolutions you've seen, even over the last few years? Like maybe through COVID, is there like you've had to adapt? I know little things like room service. Like I know so that's but it's changed your model, right? It's sort of some hotels, it's changed the model. So can you speak to a little bit on sort of what you've seen the big change from a guest experience?
Yeah, so definitely post-COVID, guests had higher expectations.
Right.
They're out in the world finally, and they're spending money, and their expectations were elevated.
For sure.
So we noticed that right away. But really what travelers are looking for is personalization. So in the last 2 years, we've really invested into a new CRM system.
Okay, cool.
Because as much as we're one company, you stayed, in Roslyn 1 week and then in Kelowna the next week, those two reservation systems weren't connected. So you might be our top guest in one city, but
you didn't know.
They didn't know if you went to another property.
Okay.
So we invested in a technology platform that basically connected all of the properties, all of the guest stay history, if you're a rewards member, even preferences like, do you want a king size bed every time? Do you want to be away from the elevator? Do you want to have, extra blankets in your room? Those kinds of things can be added to your guest profile. So we just get to know our guests better that way. We can enhance our service delivery that much better. And then from a marketing perspective, it also allows us to target emails. So we can personalize our transactional emails, but also our marketing emails. So if we know you're coming for golf, I'm not going to send an e-blast to 30,000 people when only 4,000 of them golf. We can tailor our messaging. So it's help from the marketing side, but it's really help from the guest interaction and experience side.
Which is interesting. It's the one thing I've seen in the marketing world is the ability to really personalize communication now, right? Like if you go back in the history, you bought billboards or TV, it's hard to personalize, right? You're a car full of people drive by a billboard, I can't change the messaging. Where now you can communicate with Rob directly because you know what Rob likes.
Exactly.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly.
That must be a game changer I'm talking from a guest experience too, because now you do feel like they know me.
Yeah, and it's we're trying to train our staff. So if you were to check in Nelson and they noticed that you were in Radium last week, they would say, Rob, you were in Radium last week. What did you think of the hot springs?
Interesting.
And then that just makes you as a guest feel, like, wow, they're really showing some interest in me, and so it goes both ways from a guest loyalty perspective.
Interesting
too.
We mentioned sort of the 19th property that came on. What's next?
Oh God! I think we bought
20 coming on.
I know, that's the lucky number. We bought 3 just in 2024.
Wow!
So we've told our CEO, okay, that's enough.
Can we just onboard these?
But I wouldn't be surprised. I have nothing, to spill.
No, for sure.
We would love to be, Vancouver, Richmond, Lower Mainland area. That is definitely kind of a missing part on the map for us. But obviously, it's incredibly expensive and to break into. But hopefully one day that's where I'd like to see us, or maybe on the island again. Vancouver Island, so beautiful. Yeah.
And it must have been. Like, I think the last couple, I feel bad for the tourism industry, period, like through COVID and then the fires and
Yeah.
travel bans. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I felt like tourism was down in the community. I'm not in the middle of it. It feels like you're like, oh, it feels not as busy typically. So some really tough years that you guys have gone through, right? Like, so how do you get through all that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you, like, you know, you don't sit in a corner and cry, right?
No, I mean,
or do you when no one's looking?
No, I mean, last year it ended up being okay, but we definitely started the year off slow.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of snow across BC, so the ski hills were impacted, and a lot of our winter businesses,
for sure,
you know, driven by the nearby ski hills. And then, everyone was afraid that the fires would hit us again. So it was very last minute bookings. People were, you know, typically you'd book your July and August hotel stays maybe a couple months in advance to lock them in.
Right.
But they were coming 3-4 days in advance because people were checking the weather and saying, okay, I think the coast is clear, we'll go now.
More last minute.
Yeah, or they were maybe booking in 2 separate regions of British Columbia and then canceling one at the last minute and going to the one that had maybe no fire or better weather. So people are just hedging their bets a little bit more than they used to. But I mean, we just have to carry forward and hope for the best. And now with everything politically in the world, that's another.
Is there any spin-off at all, or is it too early with, you know, cancel your trip to the U.S. staying, and you know, there's a lot of that stay in Canada, made in Canada support. Are you seeing anything, or is it a little bit too early?
We're hearing a lot of that. I mean, this winter it's been quite good for us because not good for us because our dollar's so weak, but the U.S. travelers are coming to Canada. Yeah, and they're going on ski vacations because it's you know, so much more in their favor. Exactly. So we're benefiting in that way. Golf vacations are definitely up for this summer.
Interesting.
So people are staying within Canada to golf, but also Americans have booked to come here. So hopefully the tariff and all that's
well, we welcome
pending.
the U.S. people to come spend their money here.
Exactly. And I think you're right. The sentiment to stay local and travel within Canada. You know, any chats or Facebook groups or whatever I'm in, I've definitely seen that chatter where people saying, I'm not going to Disneyland this year. I'm not going to California or wherever it might be because it's so expensive with the conversion. But, you know, they just want to support Canadians and stay more locally.
Well, and it's amazing that how beautiful our country is that we sometimes don't explore it.
That's right.
So it's interesting that you're like, my daughter wants to do an Oregon coast trip, but it's obviously more expensive, and like the island kind of feels the same.
That's right.
So sometimes it's like we look for something better elsewhere, and it's like, hey, just let's explore our backyard a little bit and see what's here.
There's so many beautiful places.
Interesting. I'm going to put you on the spot, Kay.
Okay.
You travel a lot of your locations. You only get to pick one. Where are you going?
Souk.
Oh, you didn't even think about that. I loved it.
I love our property on Vancouver Island. It's so I was there. Well, I've been there several times, but one year we went whale watching. And amazing. I mean, the whale watching, you know, can pick you up right at our property. Like we're right on the ocean, and we saw a white whale, and we were out with a tour guide, and all of a sudden he starts freaking out, saying, oh my gosh, there's the unicorn, that's the unicorn.
Oh my God.
And apparently there had only been like 11 of these, and it wasn't an albino whale, it was like a different species, but a white orca whale.
Oh my gosh.
And they were swimming right under our boat and got so close, like it was all over the news.
That's
it was
like
a really
once
big
in a
deal.
lifetime,
And it had only been spotted, I think, in Alaska like 2 months prior, and all of a sudden it popped up in Souk.
Very cool.
So yeah, that property is amazing. But I love Nelson too. That's such a cute little town.
You only get one.
Okay.
Actually, we'll split it. 6 months window. So that's awesome. If you had to pick, like if you know someone has traveled to BC, this is the first time they're coming to BC. So and what would you recommend? Like where should they go? Like where you know you guys got lots of properties now, which is awesome. Where do they start?
Where do I start? Well, I mean, I'm partial to the Okanagan, obviously. Living in
come
Kelowna.
Here first.
Salmon Arm is actually a real hidden gem.
That's an awesome property.
Yeah, even people within the Kelowna region, you know, I'll suggest it, and they don't realize it's, you know, 90 minutes away, really. We have a property right on the lake, so there's beautiful lake views. There's a bird nature estuary right in front of the property. The North America's longest wooden wharf is right outside. and just a really quaint downtown.
It's a cute little town for sure.
Yeah, so that's, nice and close to us here, and
I love it.
Beautiful.
And like I said, the restaurant, we had an amazing dinner there, which was awesome. That's very cool. Is there anything around that happens in the, when it happens in hospitality or stays in the hospitality? Is there anything that would surprise people? Like if we can kind of peek around the door a little bit, like what do we don't see? What do we don't see? Like, is there anything that really stands out for me of working in the industry and going, wow, that surprised me. Like, I didn't know we did it this way. Is there anything that sort of comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, our housekeepers work so hard.
We take that for granted.
Yeah, we do. And I mean, these men and ladies, they're working, they're 8-hour shifts. Yeah. And, it's not uncommon for them to flip 15 rooms around in a shift. Not from, not departures per se. But, I mean, they're working so hard. And, they show up every day, and they're, we've got housekeepers with us for 20 some years.
That's pretty cool.
So they take a lot of pride in their work. And, sometimes they'll do these cool towel art, animal creations just for the fun of it. And cool. They really take a lot of pride.
Take pride in it,
most guests interact with the front desk, agents or, catering staff or whatever. But I think our housekeepers, our room attendants need a big shout out.
I love it. That's a good one. So if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would you be doing? Like, if you weren't in this industry, is there somewhere you'd love to be in? Is there something?
There would be 2 dream jobs. So I'm very much into like pop culture. Part of the reason why I wanted to go into journalism was, something to do with, Entertainment Tonight or that kind of like going to the Oscars and interviewing celebrities or something. So that would be a dream job for me.
Very cool.
But if I could somehow also get paid to travel and write about it, to be a travel journalist or, a blogger of some kind that could just see the world and write about it.
Very
and
cool.
That would be
we have
amazing.
one there, Steve McNall, who works for us.
Okay.
Because Steve Travel used to work for, I think he still does stuff with Air Canada. And I was like, from the outside, we're like, that is soon. He's like, after a while, it gets to you traveling on. I'm like, but how amazing to go explore the world and just write and eat. And
I've been lucky. I've been able to go on a few really cool business trips over the past couple of years, like to Bangkok and London a couple of weeks ago. So I've gone for work, so I'm no complaints. But to go like vacation and then write about it would be
that's different.
Pretty sweet too.
So is there anything that if people are interested, they want to learn more? Is there anything coming up? Is there any specials happening that we should be aware of? Is there anything you want to tell people who are listening to be like, go check out?
Sure. Well, we've got our winter promotion on right now, which goes till the end of March. Stay 2 nights, get your 3rd night free. And
any property?
Every property.
Cool.
Yep.
Very
and if you don't need a 3rd night immediately, like you only need the 2 nights, we'll give you a voucher, and you can use that at any property anytime till the end of April.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so that's our winter promo. And with the Kelowna property celebrating 40 years, we're going to do some cool promotions for the month of April.
Very cool.
So if you stay 1 night, you get a $40 dining credit for free. If you stay 2 nights, you save 40% off on your whole stay. So we're about to launch that in the next week or 2. And
that's amazing. I love that. And I think those are great for just a staycation. Like just to get out and just like explore your own town a little bit, which is really cool, right? So very cool.
And a little plug to check, we're using you guys for a new website. Yeah. So we're launching a new website in May. So that's a big project we're working on right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Can't wait for that to happen. So Amy, thank you so much for coming in. It was good. And like I said, it was neat just even hearing, like, I didn't know the full story, which is kind of interesting. And it's interesting because we've been working with you guys for a little bit. I mean, I don't work directly on your account, but it's neat, the story about being in the community and they're still involved, which is really cool. And you've had like amazing growth, like starting when you said to where you are today. And like you said, you're probably not stopping. So there's going to be more of that. If people are interested, prestigehotelsandresorts.com. That's where they go. And all the information. So it's a good website. It has a lot of information on there. So you guys can go. I think those 2 deals again. Book 2 nights, get 1 free. And there's some local deals that are going to be happening for the 40th anniversary. So anything else you want to leave the viewers with before we sign off?
No, I mean, we're just grateful to be, home away from home for so many guests. Probably 80% of our travelers are from BC or quite local. So we appreciate everyone's support over the years.
Cool.
And happy to still be here.
Love it. Amy, thank you for coming in. And for the viewers, while we say, share these, stay connected, like these as we can get them out as much as possible. And thank you again to ATB Wealth for sponsoring. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.